At the dawn of the video game industry, game distribution relied solely on physical media. The internet was in its early stages, lacking the necessary bandwidth to support downloading music and videos, let alone video games. As games expanded in size over the years, the format of physical media evolved, progressing from cartridges to CDs, DVDs, and Blu-ray discs. For a considerable time, purchasing physical media was the only means of acquiring video games. However, everything changed in the mid-2000s with the advent of digital distribution platforms like Steam, PlayStation Store, and Xbox Live Marketplace. Now, gamers no longer need to leave their homes. They can simply purchase games from digital stores and download them directly, ready to play. As time passed, digital purchases became increasingly popular among gamers, and many publishers started considering releasing games exclusively in digital form, ignoring physical releases altogether. And while the simplicity of digital distribution is certainly appealing, there are some significant implications and concerns associated with the potential extinction of physical media in the video game industry. In this video, we will take a look at the pros and the cons of both digital and physical game distribution, exploring the impact on gamers, developers, and the gaming industry in general. Let's begin. Let's imagine you want to play the game from the late 90s, the era of PlayStation 1 and Nintendo 64. In order to acquire the game now, you would need to get a physical copy, as games weren't distributed digitally back then. It may be challenging to find a copy, but it's certainly possible. Though it would be much easier to just purchase a digital copy and download the game without the need of searching for a physical version. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that, and we have actual real-life examples. In March 2023, Nintendo shut down the Wii U and Nintendo 3DS stores, removing the ability to purchase the game, so unless you bought it before, your only option is to get a physical copy. Similarly, in 2021, Sony has decided to shut down stores for PlayStation 3, PS Vita, and PSP. And though they retracted their decision about PS3 and Vita after the backlash from the community, the PSP store has been shut down for good. With these changes, you will no longer be able to acquire a game digitally, but if you have purchased it before, you can still download it. On their website, Nintendo states, "For the foreseeable future, it will still be possible to re-download games and DLC, receive software updates, and enjoy online play on Wii U and the Nintendo 3DS family of systems." The problem is that there are no guarantees that they won't change their mind deciding that the foreseeable future came to an end. If the games wouldn't have a physical release, the lifetime of the game would solely depend on the decision of the game companies, and gamers wouldn't have a word. And the worst part is that those companies don't seem to care about game preservation at all. Here is the quote from Nintendo website regarding why have they shut down Wii U and 3DS stores. "This is part of the natural life cycle for any product line, as it becomes less used by consumers over time." Needless to say that this response is an absolute joke. People who make these decisions don't understand how important game preservation is. It's crucial that a game would be available for purchase 10, 20, 30 years after the initial release. It's a part of gaming history, and it should be available for future generations. If the game is good, the time won't be a factor. Many games of PlayStation 1 era are still amazing and are enjoyable after all these years. Yes, of course, graphics might feel outdated, but graphics are not everything. And if you want to play some legendary classic title, you should be able to. And without physical copies, we might one day see certain games just disappearing completely, as they've never existed in the first place. This October, a long-awaited video game Alan Wake 2 will be finally releasing, and the development studio Remedy has announced that the game will be available only in digital format, and they have no plans on releasing the game on disc. As one of the main reasons for keeping the game available only digitally, they've stated that it helps keep the price of the game under $60. Obviously, when releasing the game on physical media, you should consider several points of costs like manufacturing, distribution, logistics, and of course retailer cuts, even though digital stores generally get the percentage from each purchase as well. For a long period of time, the standard price for a video game was fixed at $60, despite rising game development costs and the impact of inflation. In the past couple of years, though, we have observed an emerging trend of publishers raising the standard game price to $70, which has sparked dissatisfaction among gamers. Even though it's not a big raise in price, for some players it might feel like too much, and they may consider delaying purchasing the game until the next sale, when they can buy it at an affordable price. It works in the opposite way as well. If the game is cheaper at start, more players are likely to buy it, so in that matter, making the game cheaper might come more profitable. Of course, it's hard to say how keeping physical copies actually affects overall cost of development, but if what Alan Wake 2 developers say is accurate, we might see more and more publishers deciding to go digital only in order to reduce the cost of the game for more profit. In recent years, there has been a notable surge in digital sales compared to physical sales in the gaming industry. Although there is no definitive statistic that provides the exact ratio between digital and physical sales, certain data can shed light on this trend. For instance, Capcom reported that in 2019, digital sales accounted for 80% of their total sales, a significant increase from the previous year's 53%. While this figure likely includes DLC and microtransactions, it still reflects the growing popularity of digital distribution. Sony's statistics also offer insight into the shift towards digital purchases. In the 2021 fiscal year, 66% of all their purchases were digital, considering only full game software. In the following 2022 fiscal year, the percentage of digital sales rose slightly to 67%, indicating a continuing upward trend in favor of digital distribution, which doubled the sales of physical games. Additionally, data from the UK in 2022 revealed that digital sales accounted for nearly 90% of all game sales, though this figure may include digital-only mobile sales, reducing the actual share for console and PC games. Although we only have fragments of information, the overall trend is becoming quite evident. Digital sales have become more and more prevalent in recent years. It's worth noting that the past 3 years were affected by the pandemic, which might have influenced these figures to some extent. However, if this trend continues, the share of physical sales is expected to diminish gradually, potentially reaching a point where it no longer makes sense for publishers to release games in physical formats given the low demand. If no one wants to buy physical copies, they will just cease to exist. So if you prefer physical media and have an opportunity to buy it, it would be wise to do so to show the publishers that physical versions are still in high demand and players want them over digital copies. Over the past year, 3 major AAA titles, God of War Ragnarok, Final Fantasy XVI, and The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, were adversely affected by leaks of their physical copies before their official release dates. For the first 2 games, the primary concern was the spoiler-heavy content that flooded the internet weeks before the game's launches, as these games heavily relied on their narratives. However, the situation for Tears of the Kingdom was much more severe, as the game's content was uploaded to the web, allowing people to play it using Nintendo Switch emulators well before its intended release. While digital leaks occasionally occur, physical copy leaks pose a more challenging issue for publishers to prevent, as once the game is shipped to retailers, the ability to protect it from leaks is out of their hands. This can harm the gaming experience for many players and negatively impact sales. Unfortunately, there is seemingly no way to prevent that. All potential solutions are either even more hurtful or pretty much impossible to implement. Online DRM, for example, that would connect to game servers to check if you can play the game, would make offline play impossible, defeating one of the main purposes of having a physical copy. Moreover, what if in the future the game servers go down? Then this physical copy is nothing more than a disc or a cartridge in a box. And any offline time-based checks can be surpassed simply by adjusting system settings. Another option would be to delay the physical media shipment until after the official release date, and even though it might mitigate leaks, it would harm initial game sales, so no publisher would ever consider that. The only thing that comes to mind is some sort of a programmatic timer on physical media that would expire on the launch time. However, it's just theoretical, and even if it's possible to create this system, it still might be cracked. In light of these challenges, not a technical but a legal approach may be the only viable way to address the issue of physical copy leaks effectively, as the radical solution would imply a complete rejection of physical media. Although physical media certainly holds its own advantages and is crucial for game preservation, it is undeniable that the digital format offers greater availability and flexibility. Personally, I would expect that the share of digital sales will continue to rise in the future. Whether we witness a day where physical media become obsolete is still an open question. I certainly hope not, as scrolling through a digital library simply cannot replicate the experience of looking at the shelf filled with your collection of video game boxes. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. If you've enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and as always, thank you for watching and have a great day.